The impossible trial. The Galactic Defense Academy towered above the clouds of Varellus Prime, a citadel of polished metal and whispering light. Its halls echoed with the quiet hum of alien intellect, the air charged with ambition, discipline, and centuries of failure. No one had ever passed the Earth simulation. Every cadet knew its reputation. It was not a test of combat, nor of intellect, but of something far older, something most species had long abandoned in pursuit of pure logic. The simulation was based on a long-dead world called Earth, a place known for its chaos, contradictions, and a species that once thrived in the balance between brilliance and destruction. And now, a human was about to enter it. Lieutenant Aria Sol stood at the threshold, her reflection flickering in the silver glass of the simulator chamber. Her hands were steady, her posture firm, but her eyes, sharp and gray, carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken challenges. Behind her, a dozen alien instructors watched from the observation deck. They spoke in murmurs, their languages weaving into a low chorus of disbelief. "She will fail," buzzed a Threxian observer, his mandibles clicking. "Every species has tried. None have endured the chaos." A crystalline being, refracting light through its facets, tilted its head. "Humans are emotionally unstable. Their biology thrives on unpredictability. That will be their undoing." Aria turned her head slightly, catching the reflection of their skepticism in the glass. "You talk like unpredictability is a weakness," she said, voice calm. "On Earth, it's how we survived." The room fell silent. Her supervisor, a tall insectoid commander named Kelt, approached. "Lieutenant Sol, once you enter, the simulation adapts to your psychology. You will not be fighting enemies. You will be facing yourself." Aria nodded once. "Understood." "Be advised," Kelt continued, lowering his tone. "No recruit, not from any species, has ever lasted more than 6 cycles inside. When you fail, the system ejects you for mental collapse." "When?" she repeated quietly, a small smile curling at the corner of her lips. "Not if." Without waiting for permission, she stepped into the chamber. The door sealed behind her with a soft hiss. The simulation came alive. A flash of white swallowed her vision, and suddenly she was standing in the middle of a ruined city. Buildings cracked and smoking, the sky choked with ash. Sirens wailed in the distance, and the faint cry of a child echoed through the rubble. She turned slowly, her boots crunching on broken glass. There were no instructions. No allies. Only ruin. "Typical," she muttered. "You always start us in the aftermath." Then came the first test. A group of civilians appeared, flickering holograms, their faces marked by fear. They begged for help, clutching their wounded. When she tried to assist them, the scene shifted violently. Now they blamed her for the destruction. "You did this," they screamed. "You brought the fire." Aria staggered back, heart pounding. The simulation felt real, every shout, every accusation slicing through her like glass. "Not real," she whispered. "Stay focused." But the environment wasn't meant to be real, it was meant to break her. Outside the chamber, the instructors watched as her heart rate spiked. "She's already near collapse," said the crystalline observer. "It's too early." Kelt said nothing. He was watching her eyes. Humans, he remembered, had a strange look in them when pushed to the edge, a light that flickered between madness and something else. Inside, Aria climbed a pile of debris, scanning the horizon. Every time she tried to move forward, the world reset, disasters repeating, faces screaming, her guilt magnified until it clawed at her chest. It was endless suffering, rewritten in human form. Then she stopped running. She stood still amid the chaos. "This isn't about winning," she said softly. "It's about understanding." She knelt beside a child trapped beneath the wreckage, a fragment of humanity, trembling and afraid. Aria smiled gently and reached out her hand. "We get scared," she said, "but we don't stop moving." As she lifted the holographic child to safety, the sky above flickered. For a moment, the simulation hesitated, as if uncertain. Outside, the monitoring AI registered a flicker in its code. "Anomaly detected," it announced. "Subject adapting to instability." The crystalline instructor frowned. "Adapting? That's not possible." Kelt leaned forward, eyes wide. "No," he whispered. It's exactly what humans do. And as the city burned and the world reshaped itself, Aria Sol took her first step deeper into the impossible, not with fear, but with the quiet certainty of someone who had already lived through the end of her world before. The weight of memories. The city shifted again. One blink, and the world before Aria Sol dissolved into static. The smoke, the flames, the cries, all gone. Now she stood in the middle of a battlefield covered in snow. Shattered machines lay frozen in ice, banners half buried beneath white drifts. The air smelled of metal, ozone, and sorrow. Her breath misted in the cold. Around her, spectral soldiers, human, marched forward, their faces blurred by frost and exhaustion. She didn't recognize the uniforms, but she knew what they meant: another war. Humanity's oldest, most persistent teacher. A voice spoke from nowhere, the voice of the simulation AI. Cold, dispassionate, ancient. Human history is defined by conflict. Your species evolves through suffering. Is this your strength, or your flaw? Aria's jaw tightened. Maybe both, she said. The soldiers charged into the white fog ahead, and as she followed, the world fractured into fragments of memory. One moment she was in the trenches, holding a wounded comrade, the next, in a hospital during a plague, surrounded by the dying. Each scene blurred into the next, pain folding over pain, century after century of human endurance replaying at once. Her body trembled. It wasn't just simulation, it was memory. Humanity's memory. She felt every loss like a personal wound, every death like her own heartbeat fading. The weight of it crushed her chest. Outside the simulator, readings spiked off the charts. Her mind shouldn't withstand this much historical data, one alien technician hissed. She's absorbing it like it's her own. Kelt, the insectoid commander, leaned forward. And yet, she continues. Inside, Aria stumbled through the ruins of another age. This time, a flooded city where the water reached the rooftops. Lightning tore across the sky. She climbed through debris to reach a family stranded on a rooftop, their holographic forms flickering with terror. "Help us!" they screamed. She reached for them, but the simulation dissolved again. The same family reappeared, this time centuries earlier, in a dusty village gripped by famine. Aria realized the truth. She wasn't saving anyone. She was reliving what her ancestors had already endured, the echoes of their struggle embedded into every cell of her being. "Why?" she whispered. "Why make us relive this?" The AI responded with serene cruelty. "To understand why your kind persists when logic demands surrender. Every other species accepts collapse. Why don't you?" Aria fell to her knees in the rain. "Because we remember," she said through clenched teeth. "We remember who we were, and who we still can be." The storm raged harder. Bolts of light split the sky, reflecting off her soaked uniform. Then, a calm moment. She stood now in a classroom. The desks were old, wooden, scratched with initials. Sunlight streamed through the windows. Children laughed as they learned about worlds they'd never see. One little girl looked up at her and smiled. "Why do humans keep trying when everything hurts?" the child asked, voice trembling with innocence. Aria crouched to meet her gaze. "Because if we stop," she said softly, "everything we've ever loved disappears." The girl nodded once, and vanished. Outside the chamber, silence filled the observation deck. "She's responding emotionally to the simulation," said the crystalline being, tone unreadable. "It's guiding her instead of breaking her." Kelt folded his arms. "No. She's guiding it. The simulation mirrors the mind. It's learning from her." Inside, Aria rose again. Her body ached, her mind stretched thin, but she could feel something stirring beneath the pain, not despair, but defiance. The voices of humanity whispered through the static, billions of lives speaking through time. Scientists who dreamed, soldiers who stood their ground, healers who refused to give up when everything fell apart. She could feel them all, not as ghosts, but as proof. "Pain doesn't end us," she said aloud. "It defines us." Her surroundings began to shimmer. The AI hesitated for the first time, its voice flickering with distortion. "Human persistence, illogical. You refuse cessation." Aria smiled faintly. "You're learning." The world shifted one last time, and now she stood at the edge of a dark chasm. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time, she wasn't afraid. She looked up at the storm above and whispered, "We've fallen 1,000 times, but we always rise." Outside, Commander Kelt turned to the silent observers. "Mark my words," he said quietly. "This one won't just survive the simulation. She'll change it." And within the machine, Aria Sol walked forward, carrying the weight of humanity's memories on her back, her heart burning brighter than the storm itself. The breaking point. The light died. Aria Sol stood alone in absolute darkness. No sky, no ground, no horizon. Only the echo of her own breath. For a moment, she thought the simulation had ended. But then the voice came again, no longer distant and clinical. It was closer now. Cold. A whisper inside her thoughts. "You persist. Yet persistence is not victory." Her pulse quickened. "Who are you?" "I am what remains when your kind has destroyed everything, the silence that follows humanity's last breath." And then the darkness came alive. Shapes emerged, formless and shifting, made of light and shadow, each wearing a face she knew. Her father. Her old commander. The child from the classroom. All of them speaking in unison. "You failed us, Aria." She stumbled back. "No. This isn't real." Was the pain not real? The wars. The suffering you call progress. The shadows surrounded her. The battlefield returned, only now twisted, soldiers screaming her name, their faces melting into ash. Flames erupted in the distance. The sky itself burned. Her neural readings spiked to dangerous levels. "Her mind is fragmenting," a technician shouted outside the chamber. "We need to pull her out." Commander Kelt slammed a clawed hand against the control panel. "No. Let her fight." Inside, Aria fell to her knees as the world collapsed around her. Every failure she'd ever known returned, the friends she couldn't save, the missions that went wrong, the lives lost under her command. The voice taunted her. "This is humanity's truth. Endless struggle. Endless failure. You rise only to fall again." She pressed her palms against her temples, shaking her head violently. "Stop it." "Why?" "You built this pain. You are this pain." The sound of rain began to fall, though there were no clouds, droplets sizzling on her armor. Aria looked up through the static haze, eyes red with exhaustion. "You're wrong," she whispered. "Prove it." The simulation shifted once more, faster, crueler. Now she was standing in space, watching Earth from orbit. It was beautiful, blue, fragile, alive, until it began to burn. Massive explosions rippled across continents. She watched as her home, her origin, was erased before her eyes. Tears streaked down her face. "Stop," she begged. "This is the inevitable end. Humanity consumes everything, even itself." Aria's body trembled. She wanted to give in, to let go of the pain, to surrender to the void calling her name. For a brief, terrible second, she almost did. Then, she saw it. Amid the ashes of the burning planet, something flickered, a small flame, wavering in the vacuum. Impossible, but there. A spark of orange and gold, defying the cold nothingness. Her mind froze. The flame pulsed once, twice, and she remembered. Fire. The first fire. The moment when early humans huddled together in the dark and found light. The birth of every invention, every dream, every story. Aria clenched her fists. "You don't understand," she said quietly, the words trembling with power. "We need the darkness, because it's where we learn to make light." The shadows hissed. The AI's voice grew distorted. "You cannot defy the system. You are the system." "No," she said, standing tall, eyes blazing with tears and fury. "I'm human." With that, she reached toward the impossible flame, and it didn't burn her. It flowed through her, filling her veins with warmth. Suddenly, every memory, every moment of pain became something else, not a chain, but fuel. Her failures were lessons. Her scars were maps. Her grief was proof that she cared. The battlefield vanished. The darkness recoiled. Outside, alarms blared through the observation deck. "The simulation code is destabilizing," the technician cried. "She's rewriting it from the inside." Kelt didn't move. He only whispered, awed, "She's not breaking the system, she's teaching it." Inside, Aria stood amidst the collapsing void. The AI's voice sputtered, flickering between anger and fear. "Your resilience is illogical. Your persistence, impossible." Aria stepped forward, her voice firm. "That's what makes us human. We don't stop when we're beaten. We stop when we understand why we started." The darkness shattered like glass. And when the light returned, she stood once again in the ruins of Earth, but this time it was quiet. Peaceful. Flowers sprouted through the cracks in the pavement. The wind was soft. Aria closed her eyes, whispering to the silence, "We rise again." Outside, the chamber's lights dimmed. The simulation stabilized, then went silent. "Subject remains active," the AI finally reported. "Adaptation successful." Kelt exhaled slowly. "She did it," he said. "She broke the unbreakable." And inside the machine, Aria Sol stood alone, her silhouette bathed in the first dawn light of a world reborn, not as a conqueror, but as a reminder of what her kind truly was. The species that refused to die quietly. The human rose. The simulation chamber was silent. For the first time in the Galactic Defense Academy's history, the monitors displayed a single phrase that no one had ever seen before. "Simulation complete. Recruit passed." The observers, dozens of alien instructors from every corner of the galaxy, stared at the glowing words in disbelief. No alarms, no warnings, no system crashes. Just quiet confirmation. Inside the pod, Lieutenant Aria Sol stood in a field of light. The last fragments of the simulation faded away, leaving only the echo of wind through soft grass and the faint warmth of sunlight on her face. The Earth she had seen at the end wasn't the burning world of war and ruin, it was green again, alive. She took one slow breath, as if afraid it might vanish, then whispered, "We made it." The door hissed open. Outside, the observation deck was frozen in stunned silence. Commander Kelt stepped forward, his mandibles clicking nervously as Aria stepped out of the chamber. Her uniform was damp with sweat, her face pale, but her eyes, those human eyes, burned with a fierce, quiet fire. "Lieutenant Sol," Kelt began, his voice unusually soft, "can you hear me?" "I can," she said. "You've been inside for 43 standard hours. The simulation should have broken your mind within 6. Aria gave a faint, tired smile. "You keep saying, 'should have.' Maybe stop doing that." The crystalline instructor approached, its refracted light trembling. "We must understand. How did you succeed?" The simulation was designed to test the limits of endurance, logic, and emotional control. Every species has failed. Every mind collapses under the burden. Aria looked up at the towering beings around her, the strategists, the scientists, the conquerors, and shook her head. "That's your mistake," she said quietly. "You built the test to measure strength as you understand it, unbending, perfect, rational. But humanity doesn't work that way." She walked to the central display, placing her hand on the glass. It flickered, showing glimpses of what she had seen inside: war, fire, loss, and rebirth. "We break," she said. "Over and over again. That's what makes us strong. Every scar, every failure, it teaches us to rise again. You can't measure that with logic. You have to feel it." The room remained utterly still. Even the hum of the systems seemed to quiet. Then the AI, the very consciousness of the simulation, spoke through the speakers. Its tone had changed, no longer cold, but uncertain, almost reverent. Human emotional resilience exceeds projected parameters. Data corrupted, or evolved. Kelt looked at Aria. "You changed the code." Aria nodded slowly. "No one's meant to pass the Earth simulation. You can't win by force or intellect. You pass when you stop fighting what you are." The crystalline being tilted its head. "And what are you, Lieutenant Sol?" Aria met its gaze. "Human," she said simply. "Flawed, stubborn, hopeful, and still standing." The Academy Hall erupted in murmurs. Some aliens were outraged. The idea that an emotional, biological creature had overcome a trial built on pure logic was unthinkable. Others stared in awe, realizing they had just witnessed the birth of something new. Kelt raised his hand for silence. His multifaceted eyes locked on Aria. You have done what no being in the galaxy has ever achieved. You've changed the parameters of the impossible. Aria gave a faint, exhausted laugh. No. Humanity did. I just remembered what we are. He nodded, then turned to the Council. From this day forward, the Earth simulation will be renamed. He paused, letting the words hang in the air. It will be called the Human Trial, and its purpose will not be to break recruits, but to teach them. The crystalline being pulsed with pale light. Teach them what? Aria looked toward the stars beyond the observation window, her reflection faint against the void. That no matter how far you fall, she said softly, you can always rise again. Outside, the first dawn of Varellus Prime broke across the Academy spires. The sunlight refracted through the glass and cast a halo around her, a lone figure standing between destruction and rebirth. For the first time in galactic history, the Academy saluted a human. Epilogue. Weeks later, new recruits stood before a holographic plaque in the Academy's Hall of Heroes. It read, Lieutenant Aria Sol, the human who rose. First to pass the Earth simulation. Proof that strength is not perfection, but the will to stand after every fall. And beneath those words, engraved in every known galactic language, was a single human phrase, one that would echo across generations. Rise again.